Leslie Rodriguez is up first. And then afterwards, with the talk on the art the users will never see. And then on deck, we'll have a presentation from David Gold on performance optimizations for the React developer. So Leslie, you should have co-host rights. You should be able to jump in and share your screen and let us know when you're ready. And the floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So I'm Leslie. I'm so happy to be here with you guys today. I really wanted to do this presentation, not just because of how proud I am that we were able to accomplish so much, but also just because I want to be able to remember this feeling here, because it is just an incredible feeling to know that what we did this past month is really just a glimpse of what can be accomplished if we stick to it. So I'm going to go ahead and share the presentation I've prepared for you guys. So a little bit about Family Promise. We worked for Family Promise of Spokane, which is in Washington, but they are a part of a larger organization that has shelters all across the U.S. And their mission is to end homelessness, especially like for families. I don't know if any of you have ever experienced homelessness, but it's not something I know for sure one of you has. But it's not something you want for yourself, much less, to have to deal with that and have your family there struggling there with you. So there is one here in my city, Lubbock. So when I saw the name on the project list, I was like, that's pretty cool. It was one of my top choices. My actual top choice was Story Squad, because I thought, how cool would it be if I built an app that my kids could use one day. But I'm really glad I got this one because it taught me a lot, and I'm gonna share with you guys the lessons that I learned being able to work on this application. First and foremost, I want to tell you guys I started with Lambda February 2019, and I did the full stack, I did the team lead, and then I was hired as a contract for 6 months, and we worked on like a FPV social marketplace. And even though I was making enough to start paying off my ISA, that feeling is nothing compared to the feeling of working on an app like this. So now I know now, because of this project I was able to work on, it's definitely changed the trajectory of where I want my career to go. I want to be part of nonprofits organizations. There's so many out there that are making a difference in the world. Number two, backend is actually awesome. So at the beginning of labs, my LinkedIn and my resume both said front end developer because I really thought that's what I wanted to do. And it is fun, but I don't want to limit myself to that. And I'm not just talking about front end or back end, but like any language in itself. You never know, when you try something new, you might actually really love it. I'm gonna talk now about the art the users will never see. As a back-end developer on this project, a lot of the work that we did, we weren't really able to present to our stakeholder the way the front end was, but it was still very rewarding. I think that the fact that it was challenging is what made it so rewarding. It was a process that took a lot of iterations, but once you built it, it doesn't really change that much. So it's not to say that it didn't come with its challenges. The first of which, up until this point, I had built applications like to-do list, stuff like that, where any table in the database would probably have maybe 4 or 5, maybe 6 values to each table. But we were given a intake packet. As you can see, it's pretty extensive. Lots of values that we have to keep track of. Easily over 60 values once you count each family and each member. We had no idea how we were gonna hold this much data in a database. I remember thinking, there's gotta be a better way than like 60 columns or 40 columns for one table. We used a tool called dbdesigner.net, which helped not only to plan for the database, but also to just stay organized. This next slide, you can see from the first iteration to the very final iteration, there was a lot of changes made. So this is actually the final database. We're using pgadmin so that we can see, we can connect to our local database and also our deployed database in Heroku. there was a light bulb moment that went off when we realized that we could use JSON inside of Postgres as a value. And so that kind of helped us kind of group all the similar data together and work with it easier on the front end. So a little story, we were asked to kind of pitch the app and to Family Promise's whole team. Right before, during like an hour or two before, the day before, the stakeholder asked us if we can have data in our database that kind of resembled a lifelike family. We said, of course, yeah, this is seed data. We can change it. So 2 hours before, I reset the database and I dropped the tables. Unknowingly, I dropped the user table as well. So none of our web was able to actually log in. And so after a little mini heart attack, I realized it's no problem because I had mastered being able to get data into our Heroku database. Thank God for backups. I'm gonna get a little technical here for just a second. As you can see, like on the right, there is an entire folder of backup files and SQL files. So the steps that I took kind of took me a long time to figure out. So I put them in a text and of course added to the Git ignore because there's some credentials in here that shouldn't be on GitHub. First step is actually making the backup of the database. So you have to have a connection to your local database, your Postgres database, and then you name your dump file. And then it's just it's simple as a command running in the terminal. And once you have that file, that dump file, there's another awesome command that Postgres offers called pgrestore that makes a SQL file from the dump file. SQL is just like a whole bunch of commands that you can use to alter your database. And once you have a deployed database in Heroku, it is easy to like connect it from your CLI. And this very last command on the bottom of the page is the only command that you have to do to get everything in your SQL and your local database up on your deployed database. This saved us a lot of time having it in this file. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. I feel like that's one of the major accomplishments that actually has made me feel more of like a full stack developer, whereas before I didn't really feel as confident. Almost done. I'm gonna wrap up with some stuff that I learned that is non-technical. I'm not gonna really have time to touch on all of them, but I do wanna say, at the very beginning, it was tough just to kind of picture where we were headed, but being overwhelmed is not a sign that you shouldn't do this. You should always, always, always love the journey, encourage others, and also reflect in writing because you're gonna wanna remember these awesome, awesome wins. I hope you guys enjoyed my presentation.